sailing. Okay, first question is, we'll start with Councilman McDonald. What do you see as the role of the city in revitalizing downtown Oxnard?
Thank you. Well, obviously the city has to be a partner in this, and this whole revitalization discussion of downtown has to be a partnership. It can't be just private sector, city, businesses, whoever. It has to be a composite of all of us. And the city needs to be the part that attracts businesses downtown. And to do that, we need a common sense approach. And I'll give you an example. I got an email a couple of weeks ago from a staff member who said that we want to attract businesses to come to the city and talk to them. But technically, they're doing business in the city and need a one-day business license in order to talk to us. And I called our city attorney and said, I hope you didn't give that interpretation to this staff member, because that is the craziest thing I've heard of. And if you think I'm going to tell someone, come do business in my city, but first you got to go spend $58 to talk to me, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. And so we need to get back to a common sense approach on our business incentives. That might require other incentives to get businesses here. Maybe reducing fees for the first couple of years while they're trying to become successful. We need to examine our licensing process. Some of the candidates mentioned it earlier. Our licensing process is too convoluted, and every time you turn around, there's another fee. It should be done the first time, once, and be over and done with. We need to look at the future and have a long-range plan. I heard that from some of the other candidates. There's a very good possibility that we're going to resolve an issue dealing with a lot of money from the collections to come downtown, and we have no plan for that right now. We need to set something in place. How close am I? Because I can't see that far. Am I done? I can't see that far at all. Okay, thank you. That's right. I'm good anyway.
I can't see the time. Thank you very much for inviting us here to hear our viewpoints. The question is, what can the city do to revitalize? Well, if the city got out of its way to take business away from downtown Oxnard, they opened up the Esplanade, they opened up the collections, we're doing all sorts of things. We diverted traffic away from downtown Oxnard. We diverted the traffic away from downtown Oxnard, and we built the Rice 1-1 interchange. So the city's done everything they can to take this away from downtown Oxnard. Now people are asking, what can we do to fix it? Downtown Oxnard used to have very vibrant dress streets. We had 8 different dress shops. Downtown Oxnard had 3 theaters. We had a lot of activity that was vibrant in downtown Oxnard. So what can the city do? The city can do very little on its own. It needs the help and cooperation of businesses who want to be in downtown Oxnard. Incentives could be put in place. Such an incentive would be like we give incentives to other businesses. Sales tax rebates and deferments, so they generate the revenue and they can pay the sales tax. ODMV has done very little to track the success of how downtown Oxnard has been. They talk about how vibrant it is, but we don't know how much sales tax revenue is being generated in downtown Oxnard. We don't know how much property tax is being generated in downtown Oxnard. So before we have money coming back from the city to downtown, the city needs to know how much money is coming into downtown from property tax and sales tax. So more questions need to be asked by the city before they provide more resources. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Flynn, and I'm the mayor of the city of Oxnard. I recall fondly as a youth what the downtown used to be. And I have to admit, I'm guilty of being nostalgic. Downtown Oxnard was the epicenter of all of Ventura County, not just Oxnard, but all of Ventura County. If people wanted to go shopping, they came to downtown Oxnard. The city spent $150,000 about 3 or 4 years ago on a branding program, which I think was probably the best $150,000 the city's ever spent. And it came up with some excellent recommendations about what to do about the downtown. Bottom line is it got stuck on the naming of the city of Oxnard, or renaming of the city of Oxnard, and people got the focus off of the downtown. So it begins with the city as a driver, and it's not the only driver, because if the private sector could do it alone, we wouldn't be here answering the question. So in essence, the city of Oxnard will play a significant role, I believe, in the next 5 years to not only revitalizing downtown, but making downtown Oxnard greater than what it was when I grew up as a kid. And I think it begins by creating demand. There's enough supply. There's not the kind of demand that needs to exist. And how do you create demand? Well, we thought by building parking structure and doing some other things to the downtown that would create demand, like a theater and that kind of thing. It did not create adequate demand. So what we need to do in the city is we need to charter a new course. I think that course is getting students to live downtown from Cal State Channel Islands and from other universities, turning the downtown. If we can't get the people to come downtown, we need to import the people to live downtown, just like downtown San Diego.
Okay, next question. What do you see as the role of the private sector in revitalizing downtown?
Private sector is the key. My name is Larry Stein, for those of you who have not seen me before. And the role of private is essential for downtown to be successful. Because it's not an issue of private money generating the revenue for downtown Oxnard. It's the public that needs to come downtown Oxnard. The demand needs to be created by small business to create demand for downtown Oxnard. You can't governmentize public transportation. You can't publicize. You can't make demand out of law. The city tried to do that. They set a monopoly, so there's only one theater in downtown Oxnard. When I came to downtown Oxnard in 1982, we had 7 theaters. The city council passed a resolution saying that there's only going to be one theater, and there's not going to be any more theater development until the theater becomes successful, and that did not happen. Studies were done showing that theater attendance was declining. People were buying home entertainment systems, but the city staff and the city council would not listen to the public, who said funding the downtown theater may not be the choice. The city council made a decision, and we have that decision. It's up to the private sector to identify among themselves how profitable can we be in downtown Oxnard, and what does it take. I spend $99 for my business license. In Carpinteria, my business license costs me $25. Why is my business license so much higher in Oxnard than Carpinteria? Why does it cost so much more to do business in Oxnard than elsewhere? We have too much government are there too many fees involved, or we're not charging enough for fees for service? The analysis has not been done by the city, despite requests by yours truly to do an analysis on fees and cost studies. We need to understand what needs to be done before we can make it attractive businesses. Businesses need to succeed, and it has to be profitable for business to be in downtown Oxford. Not profitable for business to be in downtown Oxford, don't move. Look at Lossa Hydrants. They're in downtown Oxford for 25 plus years. And because of the economics, they moved to Ventura. What's this telling about all the other vacant property in downtown Oxford? It used to be vibrant properties, now it's vacant.
I finally figured out what that obnoxious noise was. I apologize. No, not you. But again, I'll start out by saying that private enterprise or private sector needs to be a partner to downtown. This is a partnership between all of us. They need to be willing to take a little bit of a risk, or maybe come up with some out-of-the-box thinking. And a while back, we talked about doing a business center around Plaza Park downtown, having commercial serving on the first floor, multi-unit residential on upper floors and stuff. And I suggested to a couple people, why don't we take 5th Street instead of splitting it around Plaza Park the way we do now with parking on the north and the street on the south? Why don't we underground? About D Street, start going underground underneath the park, come back up around 8th Street. And then expand the whole park area, have customers serving promenades around both sides. And people look at me like I'm a lunatic. Maybe I am, I don't know. But this is the type of thing that we need to look at, that, how do we improve on what we have? Maybe that'll work, maybe it won't work. I don't know, I'm not an engineer. But those are the types of ideas we need to look at. We need to create a niche downtown that is nowhere else in this city. Instead of competing with the collections, let's be something that the collections is not. Nollins is a beautiful example of that. If you want good Cajun food, Nollins is the place to go. You can't get it in the collections. And I think we need a little better communication. I just found out by talking to Marcus Webster yesterday that he's reopening. I've seen the banners, but I had no idea he was coming back. There was no communication, no things. By the way, he'll be open on the 20th, which is a Monday. Come on down on the 20th and celebrate him coming back to downtown. But we need to, be involved in this. Private sector needs to be the visionaries, the dreamers. And I agree with the Mayor Flynn. How do we get people to be more downtown? Maybe they live there or whatever. When those people are there, they spend their money there. And when they spend their money there, we benefit by as a city. It's a partnership that supports all of us.
So, the city tried with the theater and is still trying with the theater. And I think after a decade, we've realized that the theater alone is not good enough. And even then, 10 years ago, there was supposed to be much more done than just adding a theater. But the private sector, when the private sector sees the demand, they will respond. So we have to create the demand. And it's about getting people to live downtown. And people living downtown have to have disposable income. It has to be market rate units downtown to attract people, maybe transit-oriented development where they're going to walk to the train station and commute to Los Angeles, but get them downtown, loft apartments, whether it's student housing, but get people that have disposable income. And then the private sector will react to that, and people will be willing to take the risk. But we got to start with some type of vision about how to do that. How do we get student housing downtown? How do we get people with disposable income downtown? Well, we need to locate them downtown. And again, I was ended by talking about or discussing San Diego. I don't know how many people in the audience have been to San Diego, but you can take the Amtrak there, and you get out of the Amtrak, and nice hotels there, Padre Stadium's down there, and you can just literally walk to that downtown, and there are a lot of loft apartments, a lot of condominiums, and a lot of storefronts all over the place. It's absolutely beautiful. And so that vision is what I think not only the city council as a whole can work on in articulating that vision, but it's getting a competent city manager like Greg Nyhoff to implement it and to work with the private sector. But again, it's all about demand. It's all about demand. We need the customers to live downtown to get it started.
Next question, right? Sorry, next question, right? Understanding the end of redevelopment and the city facing multiple priorities throughout the city, what types of incentives or what incentives do you think that the city could offer to the private sector to stimulate investment in downtown?
Well, I think one of the things we can do is create some sort of a priority licensing process. And I agree with the mayor, we need to relook at our whole licensing process. It's become convoluted. If you want to do dancing, it's one thing. If you want to entertain people, it's someone else. And sometimes people don't understand all the ramifications that are involved in that. We've become way too complex. I think, and I hate to say this as a city, but I think we've become way too much money oriented, trying to get as much money out of the licensee as possible to float the budget. And maybe it's time to rethink that. We need to remember that when downtown is successful and the tax base increases because of that success, our city's successful. So there's benefits to us being a partner and offering incentives to get people downtown, to get businesses up and running. And maybe we look at a sliding scale. I have not been in private business, but I know from people that I've talked to, they say the first 3 to 5 years are the most difficult time. And instead of hammering them with fees or burdening them with fees on the beginning, maybe we develop some sort of system where the fees are lesser on the front end and increase as the business becomes more successful later on. We need to encourage success, not encourage failure, and I'm not sure we're doing that to this point. Again, it's up to us to bring it here. It's up to us to make it a business-friendly community. And the other thing I think we need to do is look at the businesses that are downtown already and are successful. This is called economic gardening. And go out and talk to those businesses, say, you're here, you're successful. How do we, as a city, make you more successful? What can we do to help you improve? And we should be able to do that too.
One thing that the city's done in the past that's been successful certain entities that offer sales tax rebates and incentives where sales tax is deferred at a certain point in time and recouped down the line as business increases. This worked at Shopping Rose and also worked at Auto Center Drive. These entities will give opportunities to have sales tax rebated back and deferred, and these entities later became very successful in generating large amounts of sales tax revenue. Bear in mind, the city has two major sources of revenue, sales tax and property tax. This is where most of the revenue in the general fund comes from. The amount of revenue from licensing is negligible compared to these two major sources. We're going to see property tax increase as we come out of the recession, and hopefully as we do so, we can attract businesses in downtown Oxnard. But bear in mind that Oxnard and West Ventura County is basically a zero-sum game. There's only so much disposable income in this area. And if we divert this disposable income from one section of town to another section of town, since it's moving from downtown Oxnard to the collections, it's a zero-sum game because the city's going to spend up the same amount of sales tax revenue. What needs to happen is to generate revenues outside the city and attract more businesses. That was one of the purposes of the collections, to generate revenue from Camarillo and Ventura into Oxnard. The city's done has made efforts to generate revenue, but they've done a disservice to downtown Oxnard by driving business away from downtown Oxnard to areas where there's more foot traffic. I've asked for studies on foot traffic, and that's not taken place. So the city could be doing some studies to help identify the areas of improvement. The city's not done that, downtown management district has not done that, despite my suggestions.
Some of you know that in the state of California, there are 43 enterprise zones. And enterprise zones, largely speaking, give companies tax incentives to relocate to an area. The governor of the state of California has eliminated those enterprise zones and has provided some ideas and some incentives on how California can get reinvestment and get the economy going again. I think Oxnard needs to create its own downtown enterprise zone where no fees are charged for anything. No fees are charged. That's first. Secondly, the way that the government can facilitate it is that we have that one-stop shop that Mr. Nyhoff, that I've been working on, and with the council, that one-stop shop is going to get up and running, and we get customers in that door, and we get customers out the other end of that door. This nonsense of never knowing when it's going to stop, never knowing how many more things are going to be added on to a permit list or a business licensing list is absolutely absurd. It's government. It's why people have such disdain for government. So we need to eliminate that one-stop shop. So tax-free zone downtown, maybe create a 10-block square area, name it the Plaza District, get that branding program going, and finally, that one-stop shop. Make sure we get people in the door and get them out the door, and they leave saying, I've never experienced anything like that ever in my life.
Next question from Mr. Stein. How can the arts play a role in revitalizing our downtown?
The arts can play a significant role. And by arts, I'm not just talking about painting. We have a variety of arts. We have visual arts. We have music. And we have fine arts. We have the Carnegie. That Carnegie is not being promoted enough. We have numerous artists who have shops in downtown Oxnard who have moved away from downtown Oxnard because they can't attract patrons. And artists need patrons. They need outside spots to help promote their works. Whether it's music, whether it's painting, whether it's sculpture, these arts need to be promoted. We can have more galleries, we can have more open art shops on weekends. We can attract artists from outside the area. We have a number of artists in Ojai and Ventura and throughout Ventura County that have no place to display their arts. We do not have a weekly or monthly art festival. These are activities that could take place to help stimulate the arts and help stimulate traffic. If we can get buyers from Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, come down to Oxnard to look at the fine arts, and then spend time in restaurants, and then see what all downtown Oxnard has to offer, then we'd be successful. But if downtown Oxnard is this attractive, we have too many police officers on the streets, and it's difficult to drive to downtown Oxnard, because driving downtown Oxnard is a challenge in itself. What has the city done to improve the traffic? We've done everything to take the traffic away from downtown Oxnard. So the city shooting itself in the foot, been actively involved, has not been engaged. There have been no reports from the Arts Commission to City Council on a regular basis. We don't know, as citizens, what's going on with the arts program, because the arts program is not being promoted by the city openly.
I think arts are absolutely involved in revitalizing downtown. We used to have a theater group downtown called the Elite Theater. I was on the board for some number of years. In fact, many of the people sitting in this audience at one time or another were on that board. They're now out in the Channel Islands Harbor. Because when the building they were in was bought by another company, they weren't able to stay. I was sad to see them move out there. We made every effort we could to keep them down there. We just couldn't find a suitable location. But this is part of that synergistic effect where you have the sum total being greater than just the equal parts. And when you have a theater presence downtown, you encourage people to come down, see the show, attend a restaurant locally either before or after the show, or have a drink afterwards. There's a lot of benefit to the arts being here. There's a lot of potential that we could look at, and again, we may have some new cash influx to downtown. Maybe with some of that money, we look at purchasing the Social Security building and keeping it as a city asset, and bringing the Goldwings over from 4th Street, moving them to the Social Security building, maybe making a small science center or whatever to bring students downtown, and look at the old USO building and see about turning that into a theater. The city owns it free and clear. There's no liability in terms of money, and that would be a nice venue for a theater. Or maybe we do it in another building downtown, but it's getting that art presence back downtown. The idea is, what can we do to bring people downtown? Arts is certainly part of that. We need to think outside the box. Downtown Management District did very good with the food trucks. You folks were cutting edge on bringing food trucks here. It was so successful, everybody and their brothers now copycatting that. You know, it is what it is. Now it's time for us to think of something outside the box, along with arts, and something else to bring people downtown. Because again, we get people downtown, we get them to the businesses, and when we get them to the businesses, the city does well, we prosper.
Where there are arts and culture, prosperity follows. And prosperity and arts and culture go hand in hand. And along that train of thought about university students downtown, you go to any city or any place where university students live, and there is a lot of arts. There are a lot of arts and culture. I think that Mr. Lopez is here in the audience. I think that his ideas and what was started maybe over a decade ago about bringing galleries downtown was a great start. But I think what really will really nail it, I think, is our various places where artists can go to actually perform their trade. And I think right now about some of the buildings that the redevelopment agency owns, we can't enter into any new agreements over those buildings. But why not have some type of open lease where we can get artists downtown, either sculptors, making pottery, photography, it doesn't matter. Theater, as Councilman McDonald had talked about. Let's get artists downtown, and I think that will have a lot to do with the revitalization of downtown. But there's something I want to say very clearly about arts. It can't be just one kind of art. It can't just be limited to one venue, or it can't just be limited. In other words, it can't really have limits. And when I say it can't have limits, I'm not talking about freedom of speech. I'm talking about the fact that we have to be willing to experiment and allow the artistic community to be able to flourish and not restrict them. So I do think that the arts are central to the revitalization of downtown and prosperity. Thank you.
That brings us to our final question, third question. What role and partnership opportunities do you envision for the downtown management district to assist the city in revitalizing downtown?
I think the city should assist the downtown management district in a way that's going to make them successful as well as the city successful. There's been a lot of back and forth about what is the role of the downtown management district and what's the role of the city. But I think now that we're transitioning a very competent city employee, Kim Horner, from the successor redevelopment agency to a development and focused on a revitalization of downtown, not closing up redevelopment, but opening up new doors. I think that's the opportunity now for the city to start a completely new partnership with the downtown management district. And I think that the downtown management district needs to really focus on marketing. I think right now it's very service-oriented, as I think it should be, but I think marketing is going to be very key. But I think the branding program is going to be instrumental in allowing the downtown management district to market it. And the city needs to be involved in that marketing too. So I see a completely different, renewed, exciting partnership where instead of people pointing fingers at each other saying, I thought you were supposed to do this, I thought you were doing this, why isn't this working, why that's not working, I'd like to start fresh, positive, move forward, and make the downtown management district and the city of Oxnard true partners.
You know, when I first started here in the city, and I've been here not too terribly long, 1973, I think is when I started, we had a gentleman that worked for the city by the name of Jim Faulkner, and he was in neighborhood services. And neighborhood services coordinated every event that went on citywide. But there was one place where you could go and find out exactly what was going on anywhere in the city. And this was a coordination through the chamber, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the parades, the festivals, everything. Everything was filtered through this office. So there was a one-stop shop to go and do that. I see a lot of the stuff we're doing now to bring people downtown, and sometimes there is not always the best communication. And we implement things that have a negative impact on other events. And I know the last parade we had downtown, the Elks was going to have a function. The parade was there, and it was hard for the Elks to get their people in for their function because of the parade. We need to do a better job of coordination. So I see the city taking a lead on that area, but I also see ODMD acting as a marketing type of tool for the Downtown Merchants Association. When we do the Salsa Festival, over the weekend we bring 40 to 60,000 people downtown. What we need to do is figure out a way to get those 40 to 60,000 people out of the park and into the businesses downtown, either buy lunch, have a drink after the festival, have dinner, do whatever. And that's a marketing approach. We can bring the people here, we can get them downtown. How do we transition them from being downtown into the businesses, making the businesses successful? And I think the city has a key role in doing that. As the mayor mentioned, Ms. Warner is going to start working with a focus on downtown. Maybe it's time to go back and look at neighborhood services being the focal point for every event that occurs. So there's one place you can go when you want to run an event or whatever to find out, am I going to conflict with something or something else going to interfere with this, so that we can do it more smoothly, more cooperatively to benefit all of us.
I think the first thing ODMD can do is start gathering statistics, and start gathering information, both current information and historical information. I took it upon myself in December to do a survey. And I mailed out 310 postcards to property owners. The property owners of Downtown Management District. I got a whopping 35 responses out of 310, asking on their opinions. All the respondent had to do was circle some questions in the back of the postcard and stick in the mail. 270 people did not respond. That tells me that 270 people are not unhappy enough not to complain. So the property owners, at least, are not unhappy. If we start gathering statistics, and ODMD start asking how many people are renewing their permits and determining how much property value is going up and start tracking sales tax revenue, they can determine what they're doing, if it's successful or not, economically speaking. Not everything is about money. Sometimes it's a quality of life issue. There are people that are concerned with transit in downtown Oxnard who have a tendency of sometimes causing a negative appearance to what downtown Oxnard really is. We have homelessness issues. But some of the issues are a result of the city shooting itself in the foot. We have no bathrooms in downtown Oxnard, so where do people go? They're limited where they can go if they need to take care of human nature issues. You go to the library at 9 o'clock on Monday through Thursday, people are waiting to get in to use the bathrooms and take care of themselves. So ODMD can start looking at some of these social issues and provide opportunities to not just react to economic issues, but social issues, so more people will want to come downtown Oxnard because of positive atmospheres that can be created, and ODMD can do a better job of perhaps having more events. Weekend events during the week. They attract people. What ODMD needs to find out what can we do to attract residents of Oxnard from outside the circumference of Oxnard, the beach area, South Oxnard.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to now summations. Or each one of you, please give us your 30-second elevator pitch of how you want to lead the city and lead the revitalization of downtown.
My 3 focus points: local labor, local contracts. We've seen too much contracts going out of the city after spending millions of dollars on these services. The city needs to be more proactive and less reactive when it comes to social issues. Large enough issues should be mediated before they take criminal action. And we need to hold senior staff accountable for their actions. How the heck can we allow a $8 million contract for $8 million, look for our fingers? How the heck can we violate the law with Prop 218 by allowing special service being paid for general funds and those services aren't being provided locally to other neighborhoods? Again, the city needs to obey the law and look at other alternatives to the way they're doing things now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want people to believe in Oxnard. I want people to believe that as mayor, I have led this government to restoring trust by the people in the city of Oxnard. I want people to believe that Oxnard is the best place to live in Ventura County. And I want people to believe that Oxnard is headed in the right direction. Thank you for your support.
I want to thank ODMB for putting this forum on and allowing me to participate. It's very important to me. I live downtown in the Wilson district. I spend a lot of my time downtown. My campaign is very focused. It's bring efficiency back to government and make sure public safety is our #1 element. If you don't have a safe community, it's hard to attract anyone. My name is Brian McDonald, and I approve this message. Thank you.